Hey, what's up everybody? This is Bryce VanHoosen, and today is going to be the first of a series going through the various modifications that I have made to my collection of guitars. Alright, so a couple days ago I actually posted on Instagram in a post that got a bit of traction. I was sort of surprised, asking if people would be interested in me kind of posting videos, sort of walking through my guitars and all the different modifications and changes that I have made to them. None of my guitars at this point are stock pretty much at all, except for the body. I typically don't make any changes to the actual wood or the way the neck is sitting or the fretboard or anything like that. I kind of just leave that alone, and what happens happens. I mean, obviously if there's a repair or something that needs to be made, like I had to get these frets leveled and recrowned, and I had to get the nut kind of adjusted on this one, some changes made with the studs and stuff, but other than that, I mean, typically I'm kind of leaving that stuff stock, so we're just doing a lot of electronics and hardware changes. So first up, I have my 2011 Jackson King V Elite FSR in Quicksilver. As you can see there, Elite on the truss rod cover. These are also, I'm not sure if you can see that, but they were made in Japan, and this is the last of the guitars that the Japanese factory made. They closed their doors, not necessarily because of anything to do with Fender or anything like that, but basically just because I think the main guy who was running the operation, his kids didn't want to take over or something, which seems to kind of be a running theme with a lot of Japanese businesses, I've noticed. So anyway, they decided that they would do kind of one last hoorah and produce the finest in Japanese-made Jacksons. So they did an FSR, which is a factory special run. There are a couple other Fenders out there. You can get like a Fender Strat FSR. But anyway, they decided to do that, and these were the guitars that were made. There's less than 50 in every color variation that's out there, and there's a few different color variations for each model. So they did the King V, this, they did a Rhodes model, and they did a Soloist model. So every now and again you can find these kind of popping up on Reverb and eBay. And if you do, and your budget is well enough to absorb the cost of a new guitar, I would definitely recommend that you jump on that, because these are fantastic guitars, and it's kind of held its value. I mean, I still see these things going for like 12, 13. I bought it for $1,500 back in January of 2012, so anyway, so let's get down to it. The stock version of this guitar, basically, it was already pretty nice kind of out of the gate here. So stock version had two, the Seymour Duncan JB and the Jazz and the neck or something like that. Had a master volume, a master tone, and then it also had an active circuit that was a mid boost. It's kind of like one of the more popular things that I think that in the early 90s and the late 80s and things like that the Jackson Japan factory would do, is they would put these JB something mid boost circuits in them, and they kind of started to become a bit of a fan favorite amongst Jackson players. I know that people like Alexi Liaho, for instance, was super adamant about having the Jackson active mid boost circuit in his guitar, and you can kind of see that now with his pickups that he has. He has a passive set with the afterburner, the Emg Afterburner. And I think that sort of harkens back to the fact that, these active mid-boost circuits were put in so many of the early Jackson Japan guitars. So it came with that, but I absolutely hated it. It kind of made the guitar sound less, I don't know, it just made it sound less metal, I guess, in my opinion. It was really nice for solos because, on the neck pickup into a high-gain amp, you've got a lot of really crystal clear, sort of liquidy tones. I mean, it felt really like you couldn't play a wrong note. But going into rhythm, I would turn that thing up and it would be kind of honky sounding. I would turn it down and it would get kind of muddy and sort of loose feeling. So I just sort of decided that, you know, I really don't like this active mid-boost circuit. I don't really like the Seymour Duncan JBs. So, you know, being that back when I got this guitar, 2012, I spent $1,500 on this, and that was pretty much all the money that I had. I needed to get a good guitar. So I got this. And it was actually my first Jackson. My good buddy Corey Boyd that I played with in Spellcaster kind of turned me on to Jackson initially because I went over to his house one time and he had just gotten a new USA SL1 and it just looked so badass and the finish was so nice. It was a Snow White or a Pearl White edition or something like that, but it just looked so cool that I was pretty much stuck on Jackson. And I knew that I wanted a symmetrical flying V. The Randy Rhoads model kind of took a little bit to grow on me, but symmetrical one with Floyd Rose, 24 frets, came across this one and boom, knew I had to get it. So I could really only afford one guitar. I also bought my Charvel 375. If you've been following me for a little bit, you've seen me play that one. And so for many years, kind of until I met my wife, who has purchased me a lot of guitars. Yes, love you, honey. I basically just had these two. I had my King V Elite and my Charvel 375. So I wasn't necessarily happy with the way that this one was sounding. It played great, it looked great, everything was awesome, but the sound was kind of, I don't know. So instead of being able to, you know, afford a whole shitload of guitars like a lot of people with real jobs and stuff like that can, I got into modding them. The first thing that I did was I swapped out the pickups. I took out the Seymour Duncan, the JB in the neck, or sorry, JB in the bridge and the Jazz in the neck. Fine pickups, but I don't know, not necessarily the best thing for, you know, sort of a modern kind of tight metal sound. They're great for like thrash or if you're playing like hair metal or something like that, but not necessarily what I was looking for. Initially I went with some lace sensor pickups. Those were okay. Still had the active mid-boost circuit in there. I decided at some point that that was kind of what was making my tone less than desirable for me at least. So I actually got rid of that, which I'm sure a lot of fans of kind of that mid-boost circuit, since it's such a fan favorite, would probably be really offended at that, but oh well, it's my guitar, I do what I want with it. So I took that out, sold it on eBay, somebody bought it, of course, and I basically just went with a standard control layout, which was, I think it had like 2 volumes and a master tone, or a volume and 2 tones. After that, I switched out the lace sensors for the Sir Doug Aldrich pickups, which are pretty cool. They're awesome passive pickups, I totally recommend them, but they sounded like a little bit too sort of warm sounding. They were a little bit too nice, a little bit too polite. After that, I decided, okay, I'm gonna get into EMG territory here. Really enjoyed, you know, the sounds of people like Andy James was a big factor behind that because everything that he plays sounds freaking awesome. And then of course, you know, if you're gonna talk about the best tones in metal, rhythm-wise at least, Metallica has to be up there. You know, and then of course, Michael Romeo, all these really badass guitar players that I look up to, Zakk Wylde, they all played EMG. So, I went with EMG, 5766 set, and this is what I still have, and now I'm an EMG artist, so worked out pretty well for me, I would say. Anyway, this is my first set of EMGs on my first Jackson. They're all kinds of messed up, as you can see here. They're all scratched, and they look great. I was using a stainless steel pick for a while, which sounds awesome. It's a stainless steel Jazz 3, so it actually had a point on it. I think you could probably draw blood if you were so inclined to do so. Anyway, it sounded great, but it will fuck your shit up. So if you look here, there's all these kind of different like pock marks and scratches, and it's all kinds of worn to perfection here, and I absolutely love it, but I had a feeling that I was going to tear up my guitar a little bit too fast using that particular pick. Anyway, I'm not sure if you can see that, but they're all kinds of gross and nasty. The other thing that I noticed was the pickup rings that came with the stock Jackson Elite model. For some reason, the bridge one, they used brass, not magnetic. That's great. But on the neck one, they used like a stainless steel or something like that, which was kind of an odd choice because when you would flick to the neck pickup and you would just stop, no amount of noise gate was going to cut off the microphonic feedback that you got. I don't necessarily know why they did that, but they did that through kind of switching things out and pulling pickups out, and I accidentally put the bridge pickup on, or the bridge pickup ring on the neck pickup spot, and the microphonic feedback stopped. But I had it on the bridge pickup, so I knew from there was something weird, something not right about that neck pickup. So I swapped it out with some of these that I found from this dude on eBay, and I think that they're just brass or something. I don't really know, but they were kind of worn, and so they're slightly dark, and it kind of is a good contrast, I think, between the brushed chrome pickups and the body. Otherwise, you just get way too much silver, which looks gaudy. I love that, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so they're still silver, but they're kind of worn, and also kind of gets into the fact that I kind of like guitars to look a little bit beat up and a little bit used. If it's brand new or whatever, it just doesn't look like you play it at all, so scratches, I'm into them. So yeah, the pickup rings, not original. Those are a total vanity thing and also kind of a functionality thing because, you know, you don't want your pickups to feedback, especially if you're using metal pickups, which look a lot cooler than the plastic ones, in my opinion. And also the knobs, not original, but in order to kind of complete the look, I got the knobs, which are essentially the same, from the same guy that made the pickup rings, but it's kind of the same, you know, chrome, but sort of aged. You can even see that there's actually some rust and all that kind of stuff in the Allen wrench holes, so that's cool. They're all sort of patinaed out. Not sure if you can see that, but it looks real cool up close. Control-wise, I have basically a master volume here. 3-way switch, nothing special about that. It's the EMG switch. And I also got a nice little, this is kind of the cherry on top, but it's a metal tip for the switch, which is pretty cool. You can find those on Reverb. Alright, so control-wise, I have 2 tone controls, but they are not normal tone controls, which basically just kind of roll off the high end and roll up the mud. That doesn't really work for heavy metal, so, I mean, you see a lot of guys kind of take them out or not use them or cut them or whatever. I thought, you know, maybe we could do one better and come up with something that I might actually use. So, I put in the Emg Rpc Controls. These are the resonant presence control, and basically what they do is they cut bass and they boost highs in order to give humbucking pickups, humbucking EMG pickups, kind of a more single coily sound. It doesn't necessarily sound like a true single coil, but it does kind of kick up the highs a little bit and give you some, you know, opportunity for kind of like some good quack and some really kind of percussive sort of picking stuff. So those are really cool. I especially like to use them on cleans. So basically this one controls my neck pickup because, you know, when you're doing cleans, neck pickup sounds better. Turn on the RPC all the way, make it sound a little bit more like a single coil. And then this one's the bridge if I want to do some kind of, I don't know, like Ritchie Blackmore sounding, really sort of in-your-face, nasty, nasally kind of stuff. So that's it for the controls. Let's come to the bridge here. Luckily for me, this guitar actually came with a German-made original Floyd Rose, which is awesome. I highly recommend to use the German-made Floyd Roses. If you're getting a guitar that has like a Floyd Rose Special or something like that in it, the Floyd Rose 2000, the one that comes with the Pro Series Jackson line, those are great, those are cool. I wouldn't swap those unless you really wanted to, but for the special, I don't know, you're getting like an X Series Jackson or something like that. I think it's well worth the investment just to buy the actual original one. It's like $200. You can pull it out if you ever decide to sell the guitar and keep it and throw it in another guitar or whatever, but it's rock solid. Never had any issues with tuning for this. You set it up, you get it in place, and it just stays. And the only things that I've replaced on this is because of the fact that I've had this guitar for so long and I've taken it on so many tours, I did kind of mess up some of the saddles, so they got a little bit rusty, a little bit locked in place. So I swapped those, but the base plate, that's kind of where the money is. You don't want your base plate to get screwed up at all. That's 100% original, so no issues there. Still going strong since 2012. No problems. Oddly enough, all of the Elite Series Jacksons came with stainless steel string lock screws, I think that's what that's called, and the actual saddle screws. They were all stainless steel, so those are original. I think they call that like a hot rod Floyd Rose or something like that. I think that's what it came with initially. But the tuning, the fine tuners, those were black. I noticed that Floyd Rose sold the brass ones, which I thought, kind of going with my theory that things that are sort of well worn in kind of look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to me. I decided I would put the brass ones in because the brass ones are going to get a lot more nasty looking quicker than the black ones. Oddly enough, even though Floyd Rose sells these and they're drop-in replacement parts, they crimp the end of the actual fine tuner screw, so you can't screw it out all the way. I learned that the hard way, so I took an actual saw and sawed them all out. Yeah, you go to extremes for this stuff sometimes. Sawed them all out, made sure they were open, and then dropped these ones in. So you can totally unscrew these and pull them out. Doesn't really make a difference, you never have to do that, but whatever. Onto the bar. I usually switch out the bar on my Floyd Rose to what is called the old style Floyd Rose arm. And it basically is a screw-in arm. And it basically just sits and kind of pivots between these two plastic washers that sort of hold it in place of the base plate. And you don't get any of that play or kind of like clicking sort of noise or anything like that when you're using the bar. And it just stays at one sort of tightness, no matter what you do to it, unless you were to actually, loosen the coupling bits. It also is really important when you're trying to do like that kind of sort of angular rock fluttery stuff. I think if you have the normal screw-in one, kind of some of that motion is sort of lost because there's so much play in that bar. The old style Floyd Rose, you can buy these separately and just swap them for any kind of Floyd Rose that you want. That's kind of another little touch, something that I like to do for all of my guitars. Coming to the back, if we can see this here. This was already there because the mid boost was an active thing, so I just kind of used this and rerouted everything so that it would work for active EMG pickups. You'll notice I have the 3 noiseless springs in here. These are really good for kind of keeping that sort of reverberating sound that you get from the normal stock Floyd Rose springs. Kind of keeps those from ringing out. I have a brass claw and brass claw screws. I don't know if that necessarily does anything. I'm not super adamant about swapping that out, but in the spirit of just trying things, I gave it a shot on a couple. And then one thing that I'm super into is the fact that I have this Stone Tone 37mm Floyd Rose block in the back here. These blocks are super cool. I highly recommend them. You're gonna get a little bit more sort of a focused high kind of sound, and I think that it is the best blend between the big fat brass blocks and kind of the stock block where you get just a little bit more on the upper high register. So definitely want to check that out. As you can see, I play this guitar a hell of a lot with belt buckles and bullet belts and other studded belts and things like that. So we got some belt rash there, but whatever. Schaller strap locks because those are the best in my opinion. The neck, you can see it's maybe a little bit more matte than the rest of the guitar. That's because I usually sand the shit out of these things so they don't get all sticky. Kind of helps your hand slide a little bit. And then, finally, I want to direct your attention to the tuning pegs. They are locking. Now you might ask yourself, why would you use locking tuning pegs on a guitar with a locking nut? Isn't that just so much locking? Well, the simple answer is, when the nuclear holocaust hits, I want my guitar to be in tune. No, actually, really, it just comes down to me being absolutely lazy. And the fact that you're saving like 30 seconds of string, I think, when you're just putting the string through, locking it into place, and then tightening it. You don't have to like set it on the post or anything like that. So it just comes down to pure laziness and the fact that I hate changing strings. And if I'm gonna save 30 seconds per string, I mean, how many hours am I saving over a lifetime? You ever think about that? I think the $60 is well worth it. Anyway, these are the Godo. Am I saying that right? I have no idea. The Godo locking tuners. I usually opt for these. They drop in and they fit really well. A lot of times Godo will just make the higher end tuners anyway. The ones that I pulled off this were Godo. So the only issue you want to watch out for is, again, I don't know how well you're going to see this, but if you look, you'll see that these three are taller than the treble strings. So the bass strings, the bass posts are longer than the treble posts. And that's because, you know, I guess technically you want to pull your treble strings further into the nut or something. I have no idea. But it does get kind of difficult if you have a headstock that is painted. It might be too thick for these. So in that case, I recommend another one that I have is I have like some Planet Waves ones or something, the soft trimming ones. Those are pretty cool, and those will work and get the job done. But anyway, yeah. So this is my my Jackson 2011 King V Elite FSR. All the changes that I have made to it.